Hey everybody, Doug here. Really quick before we begin, I was contacted by my buddy Olo, who is the owner of the company A-Case, which makes incredible like premium magnetic cases. It's the ones that I use to transport my armies. He hired me to do a video ad for him, and since I love supporting small businesses, I also wanted to do this little bit of a shout out. So there is a short Kickstarter going on right now for Olo to expand his business into doing painting handles. Now you may have seen these. I've been using them quite a bit on my streams that I do. And basically they're really cool. They have these magnetic tops so you can have up to 5 dudes, assuming you only buy one set of these things. And you can just quickly, switch between models that you're working on. It makes painting squads really easy. This isn't a paid advertisement because he just paid me to make the ad, but I do appreciate small businesses and want to support them whenever possible. So if you are looking for a painting handle and you want something that is reliable and very cool, could not think of a better person to buy it from. So if you're interested, the link is in the description down below. I'll leave it there. And now back to the show. Welcome, Wargamers, to the Dark Dungeons of Delights of the Mortal Realms, because today we are talking about a incredibly cool story that I don't know how I missed on before, right out of the Hedonites of Slaanesh battletome, and it is called Flesh and Gold. Even as Chaman convulses under Tzeentchian aggression, the Duardin hold of Karak Zorkai stands thanks to the Guilt Menagerie of Bront Quartz Thumb. These clockwork war golems turn the tide of many a battle. Quartz Thumb is hailed as a hero by his kinsmen and offered vast resources to expand his army. Though Bront displays a most un-Duardin taste for the finer things in life and fixates upon ensuring the remains of his creations are disposed of privately, his successes ensure that these quirks are largely ignored. However, as a string of disappearances blight Karak Zorkai, a Duardin Clansguard investigation leads to a monstrous revelation. The golems of the Guilt Menagerie are as much organic as they are machine, powered by sinew and stolen Duardin organs bound together in dread symbiosis. The hold is rallied, but it's too late. As the Guilt Menagerie is revealed in all of its horror, the vengeful Allegiance Slaaneshi, the dark muse that corrupted Bront and its carnival of supplicants, manifest using the Duardin's own tainted soul as a gateway. Karak Zorkai falls soon after, remade as a mountainous pleasure palace for Slaaneshi's favored champions. Okay, y'all, hold up. This story is wild. It's got a lot of things. Let's just kind of list them off here. 1. There is an entire army of clockwork war golems created by a guy named Bront Quartz Thumb, which that name is awful. Can we just agree? Quartz Thumb, not great. The Clockwork War Golems sound incredible and awesome, and I want an army of them, even if it's a Chaos one. Thank you, GW. We also have a Duardin getting tempted by Chaos powers and that kind of stuff, which I feel like we just didn't see a ton of in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, unless I'm remembering something wrong. I don't remember a ton of stories like that. It was largely humans. I could be wrong, though. But anyway, I was saying, like, in terms of character tropes, like, that's just not a common one, as nearly as much as, like, a human being in charge and messing everything up. Certainly, Duardin are not the choice prey of Slaanesh per se. Now, keep in mind, this takes place during the Age of Chaos within the timeline, so this is a mountainous hold, one of many. And if you don't know about the dwarves or the Duardin in Age of Sigmar as a universe, essentially, when Age of Chaos broke out, there were those who fled their holds and went to Azir, and that's how we have, unaligned Duardin in Cities of Sigmar or something like that. Then some of them were able to survive by basically having bendable and buyable morals, like the Fire Slayers, and then they'll work with whatever. And then there's others who fled to the sky and became the Caradhran Overlords. The reason I bring all this up is because most of their race who tried to remain as the mountain-dwelling dwarves of, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, they got annihilated. Like, this was largely an extinction-level event over the course of centuries for those kinds of tribes and civilizations and holds. So what we're looking at is not like some grand, significant or whatever. This is one of hundreds. These things are happening all over the place. Holds are falling left and right because nothing is containing the evil that's coming at them. Now, of course, in this situation, Chamon is a realm that was largely attacked by Tzeentch forces, or at least that's where he was focused the most. And they were doing a great job at defending themselves, and this is why you can get that fake confidence of like, yeah, we're doing this. How? Because science, right? We have these awesome golems. The guy's a little eccentric who makes them, but, whatever. Results say a lot. And here we see that Slaanesh has not attacked, the hold directly in the sense of marching an army and having them dig, nor is it directly in terms of how we often think of Slaanesh in terms of carnal pleasures, right? He's not trying to build an army of golem clockwork sex bots or anything weird like that, but he hits that note of obsession. How you wanted to build this perfect machine, this perfect defense, right? If holds are falling all over the place, Bront, how are you going to defend your people? What lengths are you willing to go to? And so when you become obsessed with the problem of staying alive during the Age of Chaos, sometimes the solution is just as horrific as dying is. And so this is an example of that, of just, well, if I butcher one of my kin, I can make a clockwork golem that's, part flesh, part arcana-infused machine. And, there's no detail about any of these things. I just left to my imagination, but I imagine they're pretty stinking cool. My mind immediately goes to centurions from Elder Scrolls, that kind of thing. Just large hulking machines, but maybe when you crack them open, there's some organs and random stuff inside. But this is fundamentally the lesson that thousands of those holds all learned, which is that, you think you're safe because Tzeentch armies are outside. No. The problem is so much fundamentally bigger than that. Things are so bad in the mortal realms with Chaos Gods just going unleashed and untethered. You're not even looking out for the enemy within. In fact, you're rewarding him, right? They kept lavishing resources on this guy, and that only fed the problem because now he has the resources for the excess, but only if he can keep up the results. And that seems to always be the problem with the Slaanesh side of obsession when it comes to engineering the perfect defense or machines or defensive, whatever it is. It's just always seems like there's a moment where the cost of being the best at something, in this case building clockwork war golems, exceeds the price that anyone would be willing to pay for it. And that's where, when that gets exposed, it's just rough. And of course, in this situation, they all wanted to kill him, which makes perfect sense. Obviously, you don't know what the survival of your hold looks like at that point. I could easily see it becoming a den of Slaanesh dwarves, which is a fun concept. Why isn't that an army yet? Because they are working. They are getting results. Yeah, we lost a few guys, but, how many of these, enemies is the war golem going to kill versus one of those soldiers? So if it's a better trade, yeah, I totally, and you can see the logic, the math working out in their heads as to why it's a perfectly reasonable thing that these guys would fall to chaos, but they don't. We're not willing to pay that price no matter if we fall because of, Tzeentch demons right above us all of a sudden. Don't care, willing to die for it. So they made their choice and they charged in, and of course at this point, the entire army that has been their greatest defender all of a sudden becomes the enemy within, and it just is it sounds like a very, very one-sided fight. Now, one other thing I wanted to note here that I find interesting is that they use Bront's corrupted soul as a gateway. I don't know, I don't have a whole lot of examples of what that means, but does that mean they literally he tore open and Selesky came trudging out of him? That would be so neat. But then once that happens, things are sealed, right? The deal is done. There's so much torture and suffering and killing, and now you have actual rifts where demons are coming through. The hold is done. The Age of Chaos, I think for the Duardin, more than many other species or whatever in Age of Sigmar, I think was the evolve or die moment. You need to change things. You need to leave your hold, which is so counterintuitive to dwarves. Leave your hold, go to Azir, or go to the skies, which was just new technology. Not everyone had access to it, but it was an adapt or die situation. And I feel like Flesh and Gold is a story that just represents one of the tens of thousands of other holds that didn't adapt. And so why do I think this story is cool? Well, it's got everything, right? It's got robots. It's got plot twists where those robots are actually chopped up people inside, like Soylent, green bots. And we got terrible Warhammer names, which I believe is a cornerstone of this hobby. Go look at some of the old White Dwarf magazines. You'll see some fun names. For example, we have Bront Quartz Thumb here, which definitely sounds like it was pulled out of a generator. I love it. We have, an example of chaos dwarves, of why one would become one, absolutely. We have, on top of that, I feel like is a separate thing of just specifically Slaanesh chaos dwarves, which I feel like is its own very specific subcategory. And then we have what is essentially a one-day civil war that takes place inside between the defending arm of the hold and literally everybody else who lives there, and demons pouring in, and we have demons in the hold, there's Tzeentch demons above the hold, it's just a mess. They never stood a chance. And then the fight ends with my favorite model of Slaanesh just standing there being triumphant. I'm like, okay, that's about the best thing they could possibly have done. I mean, it doesn't make me fall in love enough to buy a Slaanesh army, but I certainly love the idea of just Sileski just standing there at the end of it all. It could also be the foundation of some really cool personal lore concepts. So if you are a Cities of Sigmar player and you wanted to have a Dawnbringer Crusade army, right? Let's assume that that's what the next iteration of their book looks like, just for a brief second. Something you could absolutely do right now is have an army called the Remnants of Zorkai. You could just have some Duardin escaped and ran away to Azir, and now they're back with the Cities of Sigmar to reclaim their ancestral lands from the forces of Slaanesh. You could have this whole grand army based on this little 2-paragraph thing regarding how a hold fell. And it's just one of many stories like that. That's why I love these little bits, is they're great fodder for exploring concepts and themes that are just out there. Anti-Slaanesh trained dwarves. Okay, cool. How do they feel about other technology? That's a pretty deep cultural wound. I don't really know. It's just an interesting, they would have just such a unique perspective and worldview on everything. So for all those reasons, I think it's a really cool story. I'm going to spend some more time with the Hedonites of Slaanesh battletome, because it's one of those books that, because I don't personally have an interest in the army, I don't read it a ton, but there are some really cool stories like this that just put, I think, the Hedonites of Slaanesh in the context of the Mortal Realms in a very interesting and unique way. Because I look at this and I find this story extremely compelling, but then when I look at some of the ones from the Blades of Khorne battletome, it's very dry. So it's I don't know what I was thinking. I was just sleeping on great content here. So I'm going to keep exploring this book. I would love to hear your thoughts. If there's a specific story from whatever your army's battletome is that you would like me to chat about, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. I'll use it as a fodder for future video. If you really want to help, tell me what battletome it's in and what page it's on and the name of the story. Boom. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you in my next video. Happy wargaming.